What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of my podcast. Today's podcast is titled Perspective is Reality. And as usual, I'm going to start this podcast off with a quote. It's all in the mind. And that's a quote by George Harrison. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that said that quote. That's just the person that I attributed it to today. But it's really that simple. It's really that true. It's all in the mind. So basically, we receive stimuli from the outside world through our five senses, and in our minds, we formulate conclusions on what that information means to us. And we've talked about that before at length. The model that I basically use, that I've referred to, is the T4 model. Now, the T4 model is something that was listening to a podcast, and I heard the author of the podcast refers to the T4 model, and then I went back into some of his earlier episodes and I started looking into the T4 model. And the T4 model is thoughts lead to feelings, lead to actions, which leads to results. And this is the model I've ever since I learned about it or picked it up, I've kind of been implementing it to be able to, process my feelings and my thoughts before I take actions. So I might be feeling some type of way, or might be down or whatever, and I want to reevaluate my feelings or reevaluate my thought process. So I try to stay aware and conscious of what I'm thinking, and the T4 model helps me to kind of see why I feel the way I feel, and kind of allows me to detach from the situation and to take a logical approach to feelings and stuff like that. Because sometimes feelings and emotions can be irrational. We might see a situation and interpret it a whole different other way than it needs to be interpreted, or is meant for the person to, express it to you. It was just a miscommunication. So the T4 model is a way to detach, to kind of get that satellite overview and just look at your thought process in a logical fashion. Because if you can catch your thoughts before it starts going down the rest of the model, the feelings lead to actions, lead to results, then you could change the results you get. Because if you can control your thoughts, then in turn you control your feelings, which in turn you control your actions, and then you end up getting a different type of result. So I was going around the internet. I was just doing some studying, just looking at a couple different websites, seeing what I could come up with. And I found another model. And in this model, it's the same T4 model, but they added C to it. And the C stands for circumstances. So it's the same model, basically. The same idea, the same concept, the same principle. They just say add a C to it and take another step. And that at the end of the podcast, I'm also going to go over another part of the process that I've talked about, at length, but they didn't add this part of the process in the acronym, just like in before, but it's still an important part of the process. So one of the best resources that I came across for this new acronym that I found, the CTFAR, which is basically the same but a little bit different, was the Vibrant Coaching website. It's www.vibrantcoaching.com. And it basically goes into how the author or the person who created this acronym uses it or fits into his daily life. He's a coach, and he uses it not only for himself, but also for his clients. So we had that kind of middle ground that we could build upon. And I was just looking through the article that they had on the website, the vibrant.com website. And the article was titled "The Best Way to Get the Results You Want. Think Possibilities." So naturally, I was intrigued, because I'm always trying to figure out little tips and tricks, because I figure, and I feel that the key to success, the key to changing your life, the key to, getting everything and anything you want, all of the stuff that we want in our lives. I feel that it starts with the mind. And once we get our mind under control, then the body will have to follow. And if we're in control of our thoughts, then we'll be in control of our feelings, our actions, and then we can control our results. And this is what I mean when I say, in every situation that we go through, the one constant that we bring to every problem or every incident or everything that we go through is ourself. So if we're the only variable that we can 100% control, then it would make sense that we try to get ourselves under control as best as possible. That we don't live by chance, that we don't just allow circumstances to be what they are, that we control our thought process so that, our perspective, we control our perspective, and our perspective creates our reality. So just like I was saying, there is no good and there is no bad. It's all about the perspective that we put on something that occurs to us. And the perspective that we put on something goes through this TFAR or this CTFAR model. Once we experience something, then there's a thought of how we interpret what is happening to us through our five senses. It could be, a different type of food we eat. It could be an incident that we're a part of. It could be something we see, something we visualize, something we hear, something we touch. It could be a multitude of things, but we get that stimuli through our senses, and it all starts with how we think about the situation, what we think about it, and then feelings, actions, results, and then that's how we come to the conclusion of what we do. Basically, that's how we end up where we end up. So if we can control our thoughts, if we can control our mind, our body will follow. We can control our perspective. We won't have nothing bad that happens to us because we'll see a lesson in everything. We'll see the light in everything. And when something happens, it won't come to crush us. It won't be the end all. It'll just be another chapter in our story. And we'll just keep on moving from that point to another point. So the author states that one of the most powerful tools he uses in reference to self-coaching is called the model, and it is created by Brooke Castillo. The author goes on to further state that the model is a tool for observing the way you think. Again, we discussed that already. That's how I use it as well. I use it to observe how I think, to take a a step back and detach, like Jocko Willink says in his book Extreme Ownership. I take a step back and detach and try to look at the situation from almost like a satellite view. Because most of the time when we're too bogged down, we're too caught up in something, we're like right in the middle of it, we can't see all of our options. We can't see the different routes that we can go. It's kind of like being in a maze or being, lost in the woods. It might be clear to somebody who's looking at the situation over top what you need to do or how you should go about handling it. But when you're in the middle of it, when you have emotions going every which way, you have thoughts, feelings, and it's just a cluster, and you can't really see your options when you're not focused, when you're not considering everything that you have on the table. And when you're acting out of emotion, sometimes it's based in irrational thought. It's not based in logic. So you might see something as though it's not, and that illusion is also dampening your ability to make a good decision. So we need to, again, be in control of our thoughts, our mind. This way we control what we perceive as negative and positive. We control our thoughts, we control our feelings, we control our actions, and then ultimately we can dictate the results that we get. We can't dictate the circumstances we're in. We can't dictate the incidents we experience or the many different stimuli, variables, whatever that may come into our lives. But we can't control ourselves. And if we learn to control ourselves, then we can take any situation that we're in and we can experience and win. There is a motivational speaker. I can't remember his name. I should have looked it up. I apologize. And if you look on YouTube, you could type or Google He is a motivational speaker that has no arms and no legs, but he still lives a full life. He swims, he drives, he has a son, like he has a family. He lives a normal life. And when you look at somebody who's taken that situation and still turned it around for the positive, you can't help but feel that, what am I complaining for? Or what am I complaining about? Because I have two arms, I have two legs, I have good health. For the most part, I have everything I need to be successful. The rest is for me to create, just like he created it for himself. So it's, again, perspective is reality, and our perspective is created by this T4 model, the CT4 model. It is so important that we monitor our thoughts, because the quality of our thinking becomes the quality of our life, and this perspective drives our reality. Again, I can't say it enough. The T4 model is so important because the thoughts is where it starts. So if we're able to catch ourselves at that initial entry point into the model, we can say, hey, why am I thinking this way? What's causing me to think this way? Take a step back and reevaluate it. What are my feelings towards this? But before you get all riled up and caught in emotion, and you get angry, or you get sad, or you get confused, or you get worried, or you get scared, really reevaluate the situation. Ask yourself some tough questions, and just general questions like, how do I feel about the situation? Can I do anything about the situation? Because once it's in the past, it's in the past. You can't control what's going to happen in the future in reference to the past. So if you're in the past, you make a mistake, then you try to do what you can in the present. But if it's something that you can't control, if it's something that's on autopilot, it's out of your hands, then it's out of your hands. It is what it is. It happened. I don't know. Unfortunately, if that's the way you want to look at it, it is what it is. But you always have options. You can either boo-hoo, worry, get down on yourself, and just sit around waiting for whatever to happen, or you can live your life. You can live your life, because nobody can do anything to you that you don't allow them to do. Nobody makes you mad. You become mad because of this T4 process, or the CT4 process. And nobody can make you worry. Nobody can make you scared. Nobody controls you. All of this stuff is perception. So if it's happening to you and you're feeling a certain way about it, it's because that's the way you want to feel about it. And I say it's the way you want to feel about it because it truly is. And I know some people are saying, well, no, I don't want to feel this way. Somebody else made me feel this way. Again, looking at the CT4 model, it's because of that stimuli that you thought that thought, which led to your feelings, which you then processed, came to a conclusion, and acted upon, and then you achieved your results, which now you're in your feelings. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you chose to feel that way because you didn't have control of your emotions or control of your thought process the best way that you need to have. And I'm not preaching to you. I'm not saying like tearing you down or anything like that, because this is something I still struggle with. This is a very, very hard place to be. Like, I want to be ideally in my own mind like the Zen monks. Like, I want to be, unmoved by situations in life. Like when things happen, I'm just like, okay, good, and I'm on to the next one. Or I keep it pushing, I keep it moving. Like, I don't want to be somebody that's bogged out and stressed out and worried, and that keeps you from becoming your higher self. Because if you're constantly in fear, if you're constantly in worry, you're constantly in anger, those are base emotions. Those are emotions and actions that are taken by your lower self. And when you're trying to reach your higher self and you're trying to achieve a higher level, when you feel those type of anger, those type of emotions, and those type of feelings, it blocks you from being able to achieve your higher self. So it just behooves us, again, I can't say it enough throughout the episode, to be in control of our thinking. because ultimately that's how we take control of our lives. That's how we take our power back. Another powerful statement that I took note of while reading the article goes as follows. When you think in terms of what's possible, light floods your mind with opportunities, illuminates connections, and creates fusion between ideas and strategies, systems, and the smarts needed to carry out ideas. So when we're thinking positive, when we're focused, when we're thinking intentionally and stuff like that, we create an environment that's conducive for success. Meaning that our brains are firing in the mode of what can I do? What can I create? Because we are creators. Everything that is on this earth, computers, chairs, stop signals, stop signs, cars, space shuttles, airplanes, satellites, toasters, ironing boards, irons, like whatever is on this earth, is in this reality, was once in somebody's mind. Somebody was sitting somewhere at one point in time and was going, hey, this will make life a little bit easier. Or, hey, this is something that we can introduce to life that might establish order or help humanity out in some way, in some fashion. So it all starts in the mind. But you can't create if you're constantly stuck in those base emotions. Like you can't see solutions if you're constantly looking at the problem. Just like when you're in doing a math equation, 1 + 1 = 2. You just move through that. 1 + 1 = 2. You have a start. You have what you're doing, basically the addition, the multiplication, whatever. You have the other part of the equation, and then through thinking, your thought process, and working out the problem, you see that it equals this. But we oftentimes get bogged down on the 1 + 1 part. Like, how am I going to get this to make sense? And how am I going to create something out of nothing? Or maybe we don't even see the other one. We just got 1 plus and we don't have the other one, so we can't equal 2. But we further complicate things. Like, being a creator, we can create anything as you see around you, like the houses, the cars, the airplanes, we can create anything. So we just need to take things and make them as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. And we can start with the thought process. If we just hone our thought process and focus on what the mission is, what we're trying to do while we're here, then everything else becomes secondary. Always mission first. Always mission first. If we focus on negativity, putting probability before possibility, we limit ourselves by shifting to doubtful thinking. Again, if you put probability before possibility, you're limiting yourself. What's the probability I'll become a doctor? What's the probability I'll become a pilot? Maybe I won't make it. Maybe I won't get the good grades. Maybe I won't get into the college I want. If you put it out there, you can do it. And our words create. Our words have a purpose. So nothing we say is by accident or by chance or doesn't have any repercussions. Everything that we put into the universe, everything we put into the atmosphere is being heard, is being absorbed. So we need to be conscious of what we're saying, because again, our self-talk is important. So those little things that we say, those smart remarks we say to ourselves, like, oh, I'm just stupid. You're listening to that. You're telling yourself that. So don't even joke like that. Take it seriously, what you say about yourself. Take it seriously, how you think, how you maneuver through life, how you interact with people, places, and things. All of that stuff matters. All of that stuff matters. If even on a small level, it all matters in the grand scheme of things. So you have to be aware of yourself, and you can't lean on anybody else, because people might be here for a minute, a second, an hour, a couple days, weeks, months, years, but eventually there's going to be a time where you're going to be by yourself, and somebody's not going to be able to coach you. Somebody's not going to be able to help you. Somebody's not going to be able to save you. You're going to have to do it all on your own. And if you are used to being in a place where you have relied on them like a crutch, then you're not going to be able to stand on your own when adversity happens. Unfortunately, there's going to come a time in everybody's life when you're going to have to stand on your own 2 feet, and you're going to have to handle the situation like the man or the woman that you are. And this is just a way that in the good times, you can start practicing this model so that when the adversity comes and when the bad times come, you already have this down pat. So now here's the acronym. I know we haven't discussed it yet, but here's the acronym. The rest was background. Now we're into it. So CTFAR. We know what it stands for, but I'm just gonna go over it again. This is how they broke it down on their website. The C stands for circumstances. Simply observe what's going on. Just observe objectively. Don't be caught into it. Don't be pulled into it. Don't bog yourself down with it. It just is. Just observe it. Just observe it. Be an observer. So first you got circumstances. Next is T, that's thinking. Reflect on the thoughts that go through your mind when you think about your circumstances. Make sure they are thoughts, not feelings. Again, try to be as objective as possible. Don't skip a step in the process. Don't bring your feelings or emotions into it, because it could happen quick. Somebody, hit your car, boom, you're automatically angry. What were they doing? They couldn't see me. Now you start thinking about how much money it's going to cost you to fix. You might be out of a car, the convenience, the insurance, the whole process, blah, 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 blah. Stop. Pump your brakes. And just chill. The circumstance happened. Simply observe it. Okay, yeah, my car had hit. Man, this really sucks. But what do you think, and what's the thought process? Okay, I'm alive. I'm well. My kids are alive. They're well. My passenger's alive and well. At the end of the day, it's just a car. It's material. So, gather yourself, get yourself together, and then move on feelings. How do you feel? Why do I feel this way? Express how you feel about your circumstances. Carefully choose a word that best captures that feeling. Identify that feeling. Why do you feel that way? I'm angry because I'm scared. That could have been my life, or that could have been my kid's life, or I'm angry because at the end of the day, this is going to cause me a minor or a major inconvenience, and getting back and forth to work, to taking the kids to daycare. Just reevaluate your feelings. And I know I talk about it like it's going to be easy, because especially in this scenario that I'm explaining right now, things happen extremely fast. So it's not like, well, ideally, this is what I picture in my mind, but it's not like it happens and you just sit there and you're like, whew, okay, let me take a chill pill, let me calm down, because I know that emotions are going to rush in, before anything else. Having gone to several traffic crashes and been involved in a few and stuff like that, I understand that the dynamics of how it actually works, and how people respond to different type of incidences and trauma and stuff like that. So I'm not being unrealistic. I'm saying like this is like an ideal self, where we have complete control of ourselves, our actions, and our emotions. And this is an ideal situation. Nobody's perfect though. So is this gonna be what happens most often? Probably not. Because we've been living a life to where our emotions have been on the forefront of our experience. We might get angry because of some situation. We don't sit back and think, why am I angry? Or look at the circumstance objectively. We feel like there was something that happened to us that was meant to harm us. Our ego, that chip on our shoulder, was like, hey, they were trying to make, like, they were trying to punk you or whatever. So then you feel like you got to have a reaction. And that's how we get in trouble. When our emotions lead the way, or when our ego gets hurt, that's how we get in trouble. So circumstances, thinking, feeling, action. Identify the action you take or want to take as a result of this feeling. Is that the appropriate action? Is that the appropriate action to take? Is that something you should be doing? Is that something that's going to get you in trouble? And then ultimately, those actions are going to lead to your results. And the last part that I was talking about, that's not in the acronym that I stated earlier, is you have to discern whether that thinking is serving you. So I would say that the D would go I would say probably in between the feelings and the actions, because you're going through a circumstance. The circumstance happens. You observe it objectively from the satellite view. You're detached from the situation. You start thinking about how it makes you feel. How does it make me feel? Why do I feel this way? Again, objectively as possible. Then you identify the feelings. What feelings do I have specifically? What do I feel? Angry? Do I feel sad? Do I feel worried? Do I feel mad? And for what reason? Ultimately, is it my fault? You did just be objective with yourself, and then you discern. Is this thinking working for me? Is this thinking helping me to be who I want to be, go where I want to go? Is it going to help me to be successful in some way, somehow? Is it serving me? And then once you discern, you take an action, and then you get your results. And then the process happens all over again. So this is just a strategic way to go into that battle that you're having against yourself, that war that we call is life, and that we call life. I don't know why I said why we call it is life. I'm tripping. But that war that is life, where we constantly battle against ourselves, this is a model that if we practice and practice and practice over again, we can get control of our lives, because the action that we take starts with thoughts that we have. And if we can control our thoughts, then we can control our actions. And then every situation that we enter into is just another situation in and of itself. It's not positive, it's not negative. It's just another situation in and of itself. So this is ideally what I use on a daily basis. I've kind of gotten away from it because I've had good, strong influences around me here lately. And even though I've been in tough situations, I've kind of leaned on a few people as crutches in order to, help me along the way. But I got to step away from that. I gotta get my focus back. I got to use my model 100% of the time, in the good times and in the bad times. So when the bad times roll around, it's just a reflex. Instead of reflex kicking off and me going into emotion or into, behavior that's not logical, my default will be to go straight in the CT4 or the T4 model and just try to take a logical approach to what I'm about to do instead of just acting on impulse. I want to be somebody that's logical, that's tactical. Because if you speak to any general, if you go back in history and time, both present and past, none of them that won anyways. None of them that won anyways acted on impulse. Like, they weren't getting flanked from the left side or the right side and was like, oh, I'm just going to do this or I'm just going to do that. They took a logical approach, because it might not have been, best to just fall for that. It might be a trap or something that they were faking. So the best generals in history were people that could detach, look at the whole battlefield from a satellite view and be like, okay, I got this going on over here, this going on over here, this going on over here. What should I react to first? What's my priorities? What's the most likely to create damage, or where could I lose this war, or how do I need to react, strategically in order to have the best defense or the best offense, or maybe set the enemy up for another trap, or whatever. And that's a lot of books like The Art of War, The Five Rings, books like that. Machiavelli. If you read that book, it's about strategy. They didn't act on impulse. They developed strategies that help them to detach and react in a logical fashion. And the people who follow that logic and those ideals were very successful as well.